Let's talk about International Men's Day now. Well, every single year there is International Women's Day, which takes place on the 8th of March. And for years it's been, why isn't there an International Men's Day? Well, there is, guys, and it's today, the 19th of November. It also coincides, of course, with Movember, which is all about promoting men's health, both physical and mental. It involves an awful lot of people growing an awful lot of facial hair, their mows, their moustaches. But let's talk about International Men's Day and what it's all about with Elizabeth Hobson. She's Director of Communications at Justice for Men and Boys and the women who love them. Good morning to you, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
I find it quite strange. We've got two women discussing International Men's Day. I don't think they'd allow men to discuss International Women's Day, but hey ho, we don't have political correctness on this show. What is International Men's Day? Is it just a sort of two fingers up to International Women's Day, or is there actually a more positive message?
Not at all. We actually celebrate International Women's Day at Justice for Men and Boys. But we also celebrate International Men's Day, of course. And for us, it's really about changing the narrative. And it's about changing the narrative in two ways. It's about raising issues faced by men and boys. And it's also about celebrating men who are far too often beleaguered in the cultural discourse.
What do you mean by beleaguered in the cultural discourse?
Well, I thought you might ask me that. And the first thing that occurred to me was a tweet that Mark Hamill, who is Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, tweeted the other day that went viral. And he said that for centuries, men have had their chance to rule government with middling to poor results. Who's ready to let women take charge completely? I know I am.
Oh, yes, I did see that tweet, and I frankly wanted to slap him.
It
was both stupid and patronising. Yes.
I composed myself, and I responded that for centuries men have dominated the public sphere and they have ushered in the most amazing age known to mankind in technology and philosophy, to the point where women have been empowered to escape living almost exclusively in the private sphere. Hashtag men are awesome. Hashtag thank you, men.
No, but this is the interesting thing, isn't it? We have gone from women being sort of belittled, and certainly we think about adverts or TV sitcoms, these images that we portray of women, as just being housewives and a bit silly and a bit emotional, or all of these things. And now we've got these wonderful role models of women in the sphere. We've got presidents and prime ministers and secretaries of state and leading in captains of industry and the like. And yet at the same time, there seems to be this sort of real attack on men. So there's any adverts, for instance, on anything in the home, men are completely hopeless. They don't even know where the fridge is. They're rather hopeless parents. This idea of toxic masculinity, which a horrible phrase, which I really hate, because again, I know there are campaigners like Martin Daubney we speak to often on the show. As he points out, no one cares about toxic masculinity when you're rescuing children in a Thai cave or going into burning buildings or turning up in police cars when there's a terror attack going on. And that actually, there's so much negativity about men at the moment. You arrive at university and men are being told they have to go to classes on how to learn not to rape women. It's quite a negative message that's going out to young men these days.
It's a very negative message, and I think it's really affecting some young men. I think they really feel they're internalising this sense of guilt and shame for being men. And it's not healthy, and it's very, very sad.
Well, exactly. I mean, we know also, don't we? Everyone says how hard life is for women. Suicide rate for men is just way higher than women. I mean, deaths at work, in terms of dangerous work that men do, I think it's 97% of deaths in the workplace are men. And we know in divorce, very, very rare that men end up with the children. We talk about all these single mums. Well, there's the single mums with the kids. There are an awful lot of single dads who don't get access to their kids. And we are seeing a big toll being spent on men. In terms of what this sort of day, International Men's Day, is about, though, is it quite difficult to sort of celebrate empowerment of men, but also men, talking about, say, mental health issues, talking about their families, talking about emotions, because that seems to have been a big part of the campaign in recent years.
Absolutely, but I think the two go hand in hand. I think that celebrating men is something that can contribute to assisting good mental health in men. I think the constant barrage of negative messages is doing them no favours in terms of mental health. It's not just about, them encouraging them to talk about their feelings. It's about encouraging positive self-image. Yeah. And part of that's through role models.
Well, indeed, I was one of the messages I've always tried to get out to younger women is if you want to have a big career and have a family life, you want to have it all, you need to find yourself a good man, and finding a good man will be, if that's your or a good woman if that's your way inclined. But you need to find a good man if you want to have a good and happy life. I would put that as an absolute top priority in terms of your happiness in your life, and the same for men. Find a good woman. But we this message seems to be that there's this sort of the men being our idea of men, the masculine man, I don't know, the cowboy, the fireman, these images of men which most heterosexual women are very much attracted to. These are now, we're told, they're toxic, they're negative, they're seen as anti-women. But actually, well, there's no evidence that that's how ordinary women think.
No, there's no evidence that that's how ordinary women think. And there's also, there's no evidence for masculinity being toxic. If masculinity was so toxic, then why would, young men who are starved of masculinity through not having access to their fathers have such poor outcomes in terms of being far more likely to go to jail, far more likely to drop out of school, far more likely to, abuse substances?
Yeah, I mean, it is very sad. I think, I'm with you all the way. I think we should be celebrating International Men's Day in the same way. If we're going to have International Women's Day, if we're going to have all these international days, let's at least make sure that men get their look in as well. Elizabeth Hobson is Director of Communications at Justice for Men and Boys. Thank you very much indeed. Just some of these tweets about this. Mary says, why would men need a day? There you go. John says he's going to celebrate it just like any other day. Janine says, isn't every day Men's Day?